Reaction, author of the bestseller Treason, Fox News contributor, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich. Mr. Speaker, we got one donation, $31 million from this Canadian Frankie Estra, who went to Kazakhstan with Bill Clinton, and this was in the lead-up to the deal. And then also, when you look at the money that was given over a period of time, millions were donated to the Clinton Foundation. Bill gets twice his general speaking fee, and Hillary signed off on Russia getting 20% of America's uranium, which is used to make nuclear weapons. What are your thoughts?
You know, well, look, I think it's very strange that both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees are chaired by Republicans, and yet all the noise is about phony charges involving Donald Trump. I mean, you have real evidence, as you pointed out. Peter Schweizer's book is amazing. Since then, we've had all the WikiLeaks. We have an enormous amount of evidence. I mean, I do think it's legitimate for the American people to want to know about all this foreign money, where's it going, who's it going to, etc. But I think a totally one-sided witch hunt by the elite media, spurred on by liberals inside the permanent bureaucracy, and then with the shrill partisanship of Schumer and Pelosi, neither of whom, to the best of my knowledge, ever called for an investigation of Bill Clinton's money, an investigation of Uranium One, an investigation of all the different dealings. I think the country deserves a really thorough exploration of the issue of foreign money gradually corrupting our system, but that ought to be an even-handed, serious look, and it has to include as part of it really delving into the Clintons and their network of millions and millions of dollars. And I'm frankly mystified why the Republican leadership in both the House and the Senate have been so timid and so unwilling to just open up a straight-out investigation.
It seems to me that's a quid pro quo. A Secretary of State signs off on letting Russia have ownership of 20% of our uranium? That is insanity to me. And if Donald Trump did it, I guarantee you that what is now an 8-month no-evidence conspiracy, it would be Watergate on steroids. Let me ask you this. We now learn from James Rosen and John Solomon and Sarah Carter, all investigative journalists for decades of experience, that in fact there was surveillance at Trump Tower. And it went on in November, December, and January, and it may have even happened before the election. Time will tell. Shouldn't that concern every American that there's surveillance and that probably the sitting president at the time, President Obama, and his closest aides knew exactly what was going on in Trump Tower and they didn't tell him?
Well, look, I think this whole process should concern everybody. The use of the intelligence systems, the level of hostility to Trump, the number of leaks which are felonies, clearly illegal, the whole process by which the President Obama apparently, I mean, we ought to look at the decision memos. Who decided that they would, because remember, these are not hard, serious facts. They changed the rules so you could pick up the dumbest, weirdest gossip, and now you're going to distribute it to all the different agencies, knowing that making it that available almost guarantees it will leak.
Yeah.
I mean, there's something, this was all done in early January after they lost the election. And there's a whole series of these kind of things where you have to believe that the deep state and the Obama team were in collusion, doing things designed to undermine and weaken the person who the American people had elected to be president. But I think it's very troubling, and I think it deserves very serious investigation.
Let me ask you an important question, though, about health care. I think this was mishandled from the start. In other words, nobody in the Congress got to see the bill that was being scored by the CBO. Consensus was not built ahead of time. Rumors came out before the bill was released. People were vocal about expressing, I hope that's not in there, I hope that's not in there. Then a public civil war emerges on TV because there's such disagreement. All right, what's the right thing for them to do now? Because this was a major promise. They had 8 years to do this. To me, I think it was rolled out in the worst way imaginable. I'm holding them accountable, like I promised. How can they fix this?
Well, first of all, I just put on FoxNews.com a fairly long outline of exactly what went wrong and exactly what we should now do, drawing on the lessons of Eisenhower, Reagan, Thatcher, and what we did with the contract with America. I think that first of all, I think they should pick up immediately and work on infrastructure, because it'll bring Democrats in to talk in a serious, practical way about working together. That opens the door to have Democrats talking about the tax bill. That sets the stage for a totally new approach to health care. Don't try to use Senate reconciliation. Don't try to get it through in a narrowly partisan way.
How do they get away with not using reconciliation? They're not going to get any Democrats to vote for it.
Look, if you and I are right, and then the president's right, and Paul Ryan's right about how bad Obamacare is for rural America, then we should be able to do a better deal for North Dakota that is so vivid and so clear that Senator Heidekamp, who's up for re-election next year, has no choice. She either votes for it or she gets beaten next year. Now, I'm happy to wait, if I have to, until right after we wipe out an entire wing of the Democratic Party to pass it in January or February of 2019.
And that means Claire McCaskill
what I'm not willing to do
and Joe
is
Manchin?
write a bad bill. In other words, I'd put the bill up now. I'd fight over the bill every day from now to election. But if we can do better for rural America, the senator from Missouri has a real problem. The senator from Montana has a real problem. You can go down the list. There are 8 or 10 Democrats who are going to get wiped out if they are seen as anti-health care. But that means House and Senate Republicans have got to focus on communication. This was as badly designed a process as I have seen.
I think the president was ill-served here.
I believe, having run a number of elections, that we are lucky that they did not vote last Friday, because that bill was at 17%, and they might well have lost the majority next year if they put their people out to walk the plank.
All right, Mr. Speaker, always good to see you. We'll see you later this week as well. Thank you.